The sky over New Eden burned red that morning. Farmers in the outer settlements saw it first. Strange lights moving across the dawn sky, too many to count. Some thought it was a meteor shower. Others wondered if a new shipment was arriving from Earth. None guessed the truth until it was too late. Jack Nelson stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, the UES Sentinel. A mug of coffee cooled in his hand as he stared at the star map. The Sentinel and its 3 sister ships formed a small squadron tasked with monitoring this sector of human space. It was usually quiet work. "Commander, we're picking up a distress signal," said Susan Miller, his communications officer. Her voice was calm, but her fingers moved quickly across her console. "Source?" Nelson asked, setting down his mug. "New Eden, colony. Signal is fragmented. Heavy interference." Nelson frowned. New Eden was humanity's most successful off-world colony. Over 2 million people called it home. It had rich farmland, good water, and a perfect climate. Some called it better than Earth. "Put it through," he ordered. The speakers crackled with static before a voice broke through. "Under attack. Unknown ships. Weapons we've never. Civilians being..." The transmission cut off abruptly. Nelson turned to his navigation officer. "How far are we from New Eden?" 6 hours at maximum speed, sir. Set course immediately. Alert the other ships." Nelson pressed a button on his chair. "All hands to battle. Stations. This is not a drill." The squadron raced toward New Eden, pushing their engines beyond safety limits. Nelson sent urgent messages back to Earth, but new help would take weeks to arrive. Whatever was happening at New Eden, his 4 ships were all that stood between the colony and disaster. 5 hours later, they picked up more transmissions, scattered emergency beacons, automated distress calls, but no human voices, just static and silence where 2 million people should be. "We're approaching New Eden space, sir," the navigator announced. "Sensors at maximum range. Weapons hot," Nelson ordered. His mouth felt dry. As they entered the New Eden system, sensor screens lit up with debris. Pieces of ships floated in space. Some were colony vessels. Others were unidentifiable. "My God," whispered Miller. "What happened here?" The main view screen showed New Eden's sun shining brightly. Its planets were in their normal orbits. Everything looked as it should, until they approached the 3rd planet, New Eden itself. The once blue world now glowed orange and red. Where vast oceans and green continents had been, only fire and smoke remained. The colony's orbital stations were gone. In their place drifted twisted metal and frozen bodies. "Full scan of the planet," Nelson ordered, his voice hollow. The science officer, Ryan Powell, worked his console with shaking hands. Surface temperature exceeding 1,000 degrees in most regions. Atmosphere composition changed. High levels of carbon, sulfur, and... "Sir, there's radiation I've never seen before." "Life signs?" Nelson asked, though he already knew the answer. Powell shook his head. "None, sir. Nothing could survive this." Nelson gripped the arms of his chair. "Were we too late? Is whatever did this still here?" "Detecting energy readings at the edge of the system," Miller reported. "Multiple objects moving away at high speed." "Can we follow?" Nelson asked. The engineer's voice came through the comm. "Engines are already pushed beyond limits, sir. If we try to pursue, we'll burn out completely." Nelson slammed his fist against his chair. "Get me visual on those objects." The screen shifted to show distant points of light moving against the stars. Their formation was too perfect to be natural. As the computer enhanced the image, strange ships came into focus. They were unlike any vessel Nelson had seen. Sleek, curved, almost organic in appearance. "Record everything," Nelson ordered, "and scan for any survivors, escape pods, emergency shelters, anything." For 6 hours, the squadron searched. They found only ruins and death. New Eden, once humanity's greatest achievement in space, had been wiped clean of life. The colony's main city, its farms, its research stations, all gone. 2 million lives snuffed out without warning or mercy. As Nelson recorded his report in his cabin later, he struggled to keep his voice steady. The attack on New Eden appears to have been thorough and deliberate. No attempt was made to communicate or negotiate. This was not a resource raid or territorial dispute. This was extinction. He paused the recording and closed his eyes. Images of New Eden before the attack filled his mind. He had visited last year. Children playing in parks under an alien but beautiful sky. Scientists proudly showing off new crop varieties adapted to New Eden's soil. A thriving human world. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Miller entered, her face pale. "Sir, we've managed to intercept some transmissions from the departing fleet. Our translation program can't decipher most of it, but we got one phrase clearly." She handed him a datapad. Nelson read the words and felt ice form in his stomach. "The purge has begun. They're not stopping with New Eden, are they?" Miller asked quietly. "No, I don't think they are." Nelson stood up. "Set course for Earth, maximum sustainable speed. We need to warn everyone." As the squadron turned toward home, Nelson stood at the viewport in his quarters, looking back at the burning world they were leaving behind. In all of human history, no single attack had killed so many people at once. Not the ancient world wars, not the colonial conflicts, not even the brief battles during humanity's expansion to the stars. "Who are you?" he whispered to the distant enemy ships now beyond visual range. "Why did you do this?" He knew humanity would not take this attack without response. Earth and its colonies had been at peace for generations, but the old warrior spirit remained. Humanity had spread to the stars not just with curiosity and hope, but with the determination and grit that had defined the species since its beginning. Nelson thought of Earth's massive shipyards around Mars and Jupiter, the mining operations in the asteroid belt, the research labs developing technologies these attackers had never seen. "You just woke a sleeping giant," he said to the empty space where the enemy had been. "And we have long memories." As the Sentinel and its sister ships accelerated toward Earth, Nelson began preparing the briefing that would change human history forever. Behind them, New Eden continued to burn, a funeral pyre for 2 million souls and for humanity's age of innocence. Ahead lay war on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. 3 weeks passed since the destruction of New Eden. The news spread across Earth and all 27 human colonies like a shockwave. Grief turned to anger. Anger hardened into resolve. Today, representatives from every human settlement gathered. In the Great Hall of the United Earth Government in Geneva, the room buzzed with tense voices. Screens on the walls showed the burning remains of New Eden from different angles. Admiral Grace Winters entered the hall. The room fell silent. She was tall, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen decades of service. Today, those eyes held a cold fury that made even veteran politicians step back. She walked to the central podium, her uniform crisp and decorated with medals from conflicts most people had forgotten. Behind her, a team of officers and scientists arranged data displays. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice firm and clear. 3 weeks ago, Commander Jack Nelson and his patrol squadron discovered the complete destruction of New Eden Colony. All 2.3 million settlers are confirmed dead. Images appeared on the screens. Orbital shots of glass plains where cities once stood, molten rock where forests had grown, boiled away oceans that had teemed with transplanted earth fish. "We have identified the species responsible," Winters continued. She nodded to a scientist who brought up a new image. It showed one of the alien ships, captured from Nelson's recordings. They call themselves the Vexar Dominion. The image changed to show biological diagrams. The aliens were tall, with multi-jointed limbs and armored bodies. They had 4 eyes arranged in a line across their angular heads. "Our scientists have studied the limited data we have," Winters explained. "The Vexar evolved on a harsh world with few resources. Competition was extreme. They developed a culture where expansion is not just desired, but necessary for survival. They view other intelligent life as competition that must be eliminated." A murmur ran through the crowd. President Alan Garcia stood up. He was a stocky man with a weathered face and steady hands. "Have they responded to our attempts at communication?" Yes, Mr. President, Winters replied. After multiple attempts across various frequencies and formats, they sent one message. She pressed a button, and a harsh clicking voice filled the hall. Your kind will be removed. The assembly erupted. Some shouted in anger. Others called for immediate military action. A few demanded evacuation of outer colonies. President Garcia raised his hands for quiet. Gradually, the noise died down. I have spent the past 3 weeks in constant meetings with military leaders, scientists, and colony representatives, Garcia said. I have reviewed all options. I have considered every possible response. He walked to stand beside Admiral Winters. Humanity has always sought peaceful solutions. Since we reached the stars, we have met 6 other intelligent species. With all of them, we established diplomatic relations. We trade, we share knowledge, we respect boundaries. Garcia's voice grew harder. The Vexar have rejected this approach. They have committed genocide against our people without provocation or warning. They have stated their intention to continue until we are extinct. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of colony leaders, military officers, and Earth representatives. Let me be clear in our response, Garcia declared. As of this moment, every shipyard, every factory, every resource at our disposal will be dedicated to one purpose, the creation of the largest war fleet ever assembled. The room grew completely silent. The Vexar have made a catastrophic error, Garcia continued, his voice rising. They destroyed one human colony. 700,000 warships will be our reply. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then a colony leader from Alpha Centauri stood. My world pledges all resources to this effort. Another representative rose. Tau Ceti stands with Earth. One by one, they all stood. Earth and colonies, always with their small disagreements and politics, united completely for the first time in history. Admiral Winters stepped forward again. I have already drafted initial plans for what we're calling Project Retribution. Every military vessel we currently have will be deployed to protect our remaining colonies. Meanwhile, we will begin the largest buildup of forces in human history. Screens changed to show shipyards around Mars and Jupiter, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and manufacturing centers across Earth and the colonies. We estimate it will take 4 years to reach our target of 700,000 combat-ready vessels, Winters explained. This is not just about numbers. Each ship will carry technology superior to what the Vexar have shown. We will not just match them, we will overwhelm them. As the meeting continued into the night, the declaration of war was broadcast to every human settlement. People watched on streets, in homes, and in colony domes across 27 worlds. Jack Nelson viewed the broadcast from his new posting aboard the UES Defender, one of Earth's largest existing warships. Around him, crew members watched with grim satisfaction. Do you think it's enough, sir? Asked Susan Miller, who had transferred with him from the Sentinel. 700,000 ships? Nelson thought about the burning world of New Eden, the 2 million voices silenced forever. It has to be, he said quietly, because the alternative is extinction. Across human space, people went to work with new purpose. Factories that had made farming equipment now produced armor plating. Shipyards that had built exploration vessels now laid the keels for destroyers and cruisers. Research labs redirected all efforts to weapons and defense systems. On Mars, the largest shipyard in the solar system tripled its work crews. The foreman, Ben Harris, had lost his sister and her family on New Eden. As he watched molten metal pour into molds for ship hulls, he felt a grim satisfaction. This one's for Sarah, he whispered as the first new warship frame took shape. In orbital labs around Saturn, Dr. Olivia Ross led a team developing new propulsion systems. She had been studying peaceful applications before the attack. Now her brilliant mind focused on making human ships faster and more deadly than anything the Vexar had. We need at least 2 major technological advantages, she told her team as they worked through another sleepless night. If we can't outgun them yet, we'll outsmart them. Even children joined the effort. Schools across human space added military, history, and tactics to their lessons. Teenagers volunteered for early service training. The youngest collected scrap metal or grew extra food to support the workers. The Vexar had expected to destroy a divided, peaceful species unprepared for total war. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant with a history of warfare stretching back thousands of years. President Garcia toured a new shipyard built in Earth orbit. As he watched a cruiser take shape, an aide approached with a datapad. "Sir, intelligence reports the Vexar have destroyed another world. Not human, but the Zentari, a species we've had friendly contact with." Garcia's eyes hardened. Add it to the reckoning that's coming. As the first year of preparation ended, humanity changed from a peaceful, exploring civilization to a war machine with one purpose: survival. And beyond survival, retribution. The Vexar were still out there, moving through space, destroying worlds. But now, for the first time, a force was building that could stop them, and the Vexar had no idea what was coming. 1 year passed since humanity declared war on the Vexar. Captain Olivia Ross stood on the observation deck of Luna Command, watching as another group of warships left Earth orbit. The ships looked like silver needles against the blackness of space. Each one carried weapons that didn't exist a year ago. Olivia had been a civilian engineer before New Eden. Now she wore the uniform of the United Earth Defense Force and commanded the UES Retribution, one of the new Nemesis-class dreadnoughts. The ship was 4 times larger than any vessel humans had built before the war. Commander Peter Wright joined her at the viewport. He was a career military officer with a shaved head and serious eyes. "The mining operations in the asteroid belt have increased output by another 15%, he reported. "The Jovian shipyards are now producing a cruiser every 14 hours. Olivia nodded. "And Mars? 6 destroyers per day. They've converted the entire northern plains into factory space." Similar reports came from all across human space. Alpha. Centauri's shipyards worked non-stop. The research stations around Tau Ceti had developed new shield technology. Every colony, no matter how small, contributed to the war effort. "How many ships do we have now?" Olivia asked. "Just over 200,000 combat-ready vessels," Wright replied. "With another 500,000 in various stages of construction. We're ahead of schedule." Olivia turned from the viewport. "The Retribution begins its trial runs tomorrow. I want you to push the engines to their limits. We need to know what this ship can really do." "Yes, Captain," Wright said with a slight smile. "The crew is ready. They've been waiting for this." The UES Retribution left dock the next morning. It was 500 meters long. It was a monster. Its main gun could crack a small moon. Its engines, designed by Dr. Kevin Hayes and his team, used a new type of quantum propulsion that gave it speed no human ship had ever achieved. Olivia sat in the command chair on the bridge, feeling the slight vibration as the massive engines powered up. "All systems online, Captain," reported the operations officer, Lieutenant Frank Wilson. "Weapon systems green. Shields at maximum." "Take us out, Lieutenant," Olivia ordered. "Set course for the Jupiter testing range." The Retribution moved away from Luna Command, accelerating smoothly. Other ships in the area moved aside, their crews watching the new dreadnought with pride and hope. On a secure channel, Admiral Winters contacted Olivia from Earth Command. "Captain Ross, I'm sending you new intelligence reports," Winters said. Her face on the screen looked tired but determined. "Deep space probes have given us more information about the Vexar." Olivia reviewed the data as it came through. The probes, disguised to avoid detection, had monitored Vexar activities in nearby star systems. The aliens were methodical, moving from planet to planet with terrible efficiency. 3 more non-human civilizations had fallen to their advance. "They're getting closer to our space," Olivia noted. "But they've slowed down." "Yes," Winters agreed. "They've encountered something unexpected. Resistance from the Arxur, a species we've had limited contact with. This has forced the Vexar to commit more resources than they planned." "That gives us more time," Olivia said. "Exactly. Use it well, Captain. The Retribution is the first of 50 Nemesis-class dreadnoughts. What you learn in these trials will help the others." After the communication ended, Olivia studied the star map showing Vexar movements. They were still at least 2 years from reaching human-controlled space, assuming they maintained their current pace. They think they have all the time in the world, she said quietly to herself. They have no idea what's waiting for them. The Retribution reached the Jupiter testing range 3 days later. This remote area of space beyond Jupiter's outer moons had been converted into a massive military training ground. Hundreds of automated drones simulated enemy ships. Artificial asteroids provided obstacles for navigation drills. Begin weapons. Test sequence, Olivia ordered. The Retribution's main gun charged with a low hum that vibrated through the ship. On the bridge, Weapons Officer Lieutenant Aaron Foster monitored power levels. Target acquired, he reported. Test asteroid A7, distance 300,000 kilometers. Fire when ready, Olivia said. The gun discharged. A beam of concentrated energy, invisible in space, struck the asteroid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive rock cracked from inside, glowed red, and exploded into thousands of pieces. Direct hit, Foster reported with a smile. Destruction complete, power system stable. For the next week, the Retribution ran drill after drill. The new engines pushed the ship to speeds that would have torn apart older vessels. The shield systems deflected impacts that would have destroyed previous defense systems. The crew, all volunteers who had trained together for months, worked with growing confidence. During a short break, Olivia received a transmission from Dr. Hayes at the Quantum Warfare Division on Earth. Captain, we've made another breakthrough, the scientist said, his eyes bright with excitement. We've found a way to detect Vexar ships even when they try to hide their energy signatures. How soon can we implement it? Olivia asked. The software update is ready now. Hardware modifications will take about 2 weeks per ship. Start with the Retribution, Olivia said. We'll serve as the test platform. Throughout human space, similar advances were happening almost daily. Engineers who once designed entertainment systems now created targeting computers. Doctors who had treated common illnesses now developed ways to counter Vexar biological weapons. Farmers grew food with one hand and trained with weapons with the other. Earth, once divided by old national borders, now functioned as a single war machine. The colonies, once focused on their own development, now shared every resource without hesitation. In a secure meeting room at Earth Command, Admiral Winters gathered her top commanders. Jack Nelson, now promoted to Admiral, was among them. So was Susan Miller, now a captain with her own ship. The time has come to move from preparation to action, Winters told them. Our first battle groups will deploy beyond our borders next month. Intelligence suggests the Vexar will reach the Procyon system within 6 months. We will meet them there. Nelson studied the battle plans. We're sending 150,000 ships? That's almost our entire current fleet. Yes, Winters replied. The Vexar must understand from our first encounter that they face not just defeat, but annihilation. We'll continue building ships here while the battle groups deploy. As the meeting ended, Nelson spoke privately to Winters. Do you think it's enough? Even with our technological advances, the Vexar have experience in exterminating entire species. Winters' eyes were cold. The Vexar have never faced humans before. They've never encountered a species born of a world where life itself is constant competition. Every civilization they've destroyed so far evolved in more peaceful environments. Earth shaped us differently. For better or worse, Nelson agreed. For this moment, Admiral, Winters said, it's for better. The Vexar believe they are the ultimate predators. We're about to show them what real predators look like. As Olivia Ross completed the Retribution's trials and prepared to join the first battle group, she received her official orders. The human fleet would make first contact with the Vexar in the Procyon system. The waiting was over. The response to New Eden was about to begin. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Vexar continued their advance, unaware that the next civilization they encountered would be the one that ended their dominion forever. 2 years and 8 months after the fall of New Eden, the vanguard of humanity's armada entered the Procyon star system. 150,000 warships divided into 20 battle groups. They made no attempt to hide. Their engines burned, bright against the darkness of space. Fleet Admiral Daniel Harris commanded from his flagship, the UES Judgment. He was 52 years old with a weathered face and steady hands. Before the war, He had been a peaceful explorer. Now he led the Mao, largest fighting force humans had ever assembled. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer, Commander Amy Evans. "Battle Group Omega has taken position near the outer planet." Harris nodded. "Begin broadcasting on all frequencies in the Vexar language." The message was simple. "We are humanity. You destroyed New Eden. We have come in response." They sent it continuously for 3 days as the fleet spread through the system. Intelligence reports had confirmed that the Vexar would arrive soon. This system was next in their path of destruction. On the 4th day, sensors detected unusual energy readings at the edge of the system. "Multiple objects emerging from faster-than-light travel," reported the sensor officer. "Configuration matches. Vexar vessels." Harris leaned forward in his command chair. "How many?" "Initial count shows approximately 30,000 ships, sir." Harris felt a moment of satisfaction. The human fleet had a 5-to-1 advantage. The Vexar clearly weren't expecting to find humans here, so far from Earth. "All battle groups to combat positions," Harris ordered. "Direct Battle Group Omega to make first contact." Rear Admiral Maria Clark commanded Battle Group Omega from the UES Vengeance. She had been a tactical officer on a small patrol ship before the war. Now she controlled 7,500 warships. Her battle group formed a wide half-sphere facing the oncoming Vexar fleet. "They're moving into attack formation," Clark's tactical officer reported. "Their speed is increasing." "Hold position," Clark ordered. "Shields at maximum. Weapons charged, but do not fire until my command." The Vexar ships were sleek, organic-looking constructs that moved with unnerving coordination. They spread out like a giant hand reaching for the human vessels. When they came within 500,000 kilometers, they launched their first attack, energy weapons that lit up space with blue-green light. "Shields holding," reported Clark's defense officer. "No damage to any ships." Clark allowed herself a small smile. The new shield technology developed by human scientists was working. The Vexar weapons, so devastating against unprotected planets, couldn't penetrate these defenses. "Return fire," she ordered. "All ships, full barrage." The human fleet fired, as one. Thousands of energy beams crossed space. The Vexar ships tried to evade, but humans had studied every scrap of data from New Eden. They had analyzed Vexar movement patterns. They had prepared for this moment. The first wave of fire destroyed over 1,000 Vexar ships. The alien fleet briefly pulled back, then attacked again with different weapons, missiles that split into multiple warheads. Some got through. 15 human ships exploded, but the rest of the fleet adjusted their defenses and continued firing. Clark contacted Admiral Harris. "The enemy is testing our capabilities. They're trying different weapons to find our weaknesses." "As expected," Harris replied. "Implement Battle Plan Theta." Clark nodded and gave new orders. Her battle group changed formation, creating what appeared to be a weak point in their defenses. The Vexar fleet immediately concentrated fire on that area. When the alien ships closed in, human vessels hidden behind nearby moons emerged and attacked the Vexar from behind. Caught between two forces, over 5,000 alien ships were destroyed in minutes. The battle continued for 14 hours. The Vexar fought with ruthless efficiency, sacrificing some ships to test human defenses, then changing tactics when they found no success. They tried biological weapons, which human ships detected and neutralized before they could reach their targets. They attempted computer attacks, but human systems had been designed with new safeguards. Humans had spent years preparing for this fight. The Vexar were facing a species whose entire history was marked by conflict and innovation in warfare. By the 8th hour, the Vexar lost half their fleet. By the 12th hour, they attempted to retreat. The human fleet pursued, cutting off their escape routes. "We cannot allow any to return to their main forces," Harris told his commanders. "No survivors must report what they found here." On her ship, Olivia Ross directed the retribution through the battle. The massive dreadnought had already destroyed over 200 enemy vessels. Its advanced sensors tracked Vexar ships trying to hide behind planets or moons. "Target locked on the Vexar command ship," reported Lieutenant Foster. "Distance 800,000 kilometers." "Fire main gun," Olivia ordered. The Retribution's primary weapon discharged. The energy beam traveled the distance in less than 3 seconds. The Vexar command ship, 3 times larger than its companions, exploded in a ball of light. Without central direction, the remaining Vexar ships fought with less coordination. The human fleet pressed its advantage, methodically destroying vessel after vessel. When the 14th hour ended, Admiral Clark made a final report to Harris. "Enemy fleet neutralized, sir. All Vexar ships confirmed destroyed." The cost had been high. 9,000 human ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. 45,000 crew members dead, thousands more injured. But the victory was complete. Harris addressed all ships in the fleet. "We have drawn first blood, but this is only the beginning. The Vexar will adapt to our tactics and technology. So must we. Analyze all battle data. Prepare for the next engagement." Across the fleet, crews who had trained for years but never faced real combat began to process what had happened. They had faced the enemy that destroyed New Eden. They had won. On colonies and stations throughout human space, people watched recordings of the battle. There was no celebration, only grim satisfaction and renewed determination. The Vexar could be beaten. The production of ships and weapons increased. More volunteers joined the fleet. Meanwhile, deep in Vexar territory, their ruling council received reports of the defeat. For the first time in their history of conquest, the Vexar faced a species that could not only resist them but defeat them in open battle. The Supreme Dominator, leader of all Vexar, called an emergency meeting of commanders. This human species has resources and technology we did not anticipate. We must learn everything about them. A military commander responded, "We have sent probes to infiltrate their territory. We will gather intelligence and prepare a proper response. We cannot allow them to gain momentum," the Supreme Dominator declared. "Recall fleets from sectors 3 and 4. We will concentrate our forces and crush these humans before they become an even greater threat." As the human fleet secured the Procyon system, Admiral Harris received intelligence reports about Vexar movements. They were pulling back from other fronts, gathering their forces. "They're afraid," Jack Nelson observed in a secure communication with Harris. "They've never had to retreat before." "Fear makes them more dangerous," Harris replied. "But it also confirms what we hoped. They can be beaten. And if they can be beaten, they can be destroyed." The human advance had begun. The Vexar were about to learn what happened when you awakened a sleeping giant. 4 years after the destruction of New Eden, the full human armada gathered at the edge of Vexar territory. 700,000 warships carrying 45 million military personnel. The fleet stretched across space farther than the eye could see, even on the most powerful view screens. Grand Admiral Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Final Judgment. She was 50 years old with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Before the war, she had been an administrator on a peaceful colony. Now she commanded the largest military force ever assembled by any species in known space. "All fleet groups report ready, Admiral," said her Chief of Staff, Captain Eric Barnes. Chen nodded. "Begin the advance. All ships to maintain formation." The massive armada moved forward as one, entering the Vexar home system. Intelligence from advanced probes had confirmed the Vexar had pulled back all their forces to defend their homeworld. 500,000 ships arranged in defensive rings around their planet. As the human fleet approached, Chen opened a channel to all ships. "This is the moment we have prepared for. New Eden will be avenged today. Fight with discipline and precision. Remember those we lost." The Vexar detected the human fleet's approach. Their ships moved to intercept, but something had changed in their tactics. Instead of the aggressive attacks they had used in previous battles, they held back. "In tight defensive formations, they're afraid," observed Admiral Jack Nelson from his command ship. In the 4 years since discovering the ruins of New Eden, he had fought in 12 major battles against the Vexar. He knew their tactics well. "They should be," replied Admiral Maria Clark over the secure channel. "They never expected us to reach their homeworld. They never expected us to build a fleet this size." Chen opened communication with the Vexar. "This is humanity," she transmitted. "You destroyed one of our colonies. You murdered 2.3 million of our people. You declared your intention to remove our kind from existence. Now we have come to deliver our response." For several minutes there was no reply. Then a transmission came through. The Vexar Supreme Dominator appeared on the screen. Its armored carapace showed signs of age, its 4 eyes focused intently on Chen. "We recognize our error in judgment," it said in a clicking, translated voice. "We offer reparations and territorial concessions. We seek peace." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. This was unexpected. The Vexar had never offered peace to any species before. Chen's face remained hard. "New Eden can never be restored. Its people can never be brought back. You chose to make humans your enemy. Now you will face the consequences of that choice." She cut the transmission and gave the order. "All ships, commence attack." The human fleet moved forward in perfect coordination. 4 years of war had turned them into a frighteningly efficient machine. The newer ships carried weapons and defenses the Vexar had never seen before. Even their older vessels had been upgraded with technology developed during the long conflict. The Vexar fought desperately to defend their homeworld. They used every weapon, every tactic they had developed in thousands of years of conquest. Ships on both sides exploded into clouds of debris. Energy beams crisscrossed space. Missiles traced burning lines between the fleets. On the UES Retribution, now bearing the scars of dozens of battles, Captain Olivia Ross directed her crew with calm efficiency. The massive dreadnought had become famous among the fleet for destroying more enemy vessels than any other ship of its class. "They're concentrating their fire on our left flank," she reported to Chen, "trying to create a gap in our formation." "Reinforce that sector," Chen ordered. "Battle Group 7 to move to support position." The battle raged for 3 days. Space around the Vexar homeworld became a graveyard of ships from both sides. Human vessels fought with a cold fury born of 4 years of war and the memory of New Eden. The Vexar fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. By the 3rd day, the Vexar fleet had been reduced to less than 50,000 vessels. The human armada, despite heavy losses, still had over 500,000 ships operational. The outcome was no longer in doubt. Chen ordered a ceasefire. Her ship established direct visual communication with the Vexar leadership in their planetary capital. "You have a choice," she told the Supreme Dominator. "Unconditional surrender with these terms. Complete disarmament, supervision of your society for the next century, and integration into the galactic community with strict limitations on your expansion. Or we finish what we started." The Supreme Dominator's armored carapace showed damage from a partial collapse of its command center. Its usual arrogance was gone, replaced by resignation. "We surrender," it said simply, giving humanity the first surrender in Vexar history. As the human fleet established orbit around the Vexar homeworld, Captain Frank Mitchell stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Memorial. The vessel had been named in honor of New Eden's victims, and its crew was composed entirely of people who had lost family in the colony's destruction. "I never thought we'd actually make it here," Mitchell said quietly to his executive officer. "From one destroyed colony to the conquest of the most aggressive species in known space. All in 4 years. The cost had been immense. 120,000 human ships destroyed, millions of personnel lost, 4 years of humanity's progress devoted entirely to war. Every family across human space had lost someone in the conflict. Yet even in victory, humanity demonstrated what truly set it apart from the Vexar. Medical ships descended to treat injured civilians on the alien world. Relief supplies followed. The occupation would be firm, but not cruel. President Garcia addressed humanity from Earth. "Today marks the end of this war, but also the beginning of a new chapter for our species. We have demonstrated that humanity will defend itself with unmatched resolve. Yet in victory we choose mercy over vengeance, rehabilitation over extinction. The stars will know that humans protect their own, but they will also know that we strive to be better than those who wrong us. On a hill overlooking what had once been the Vexar capital, now partly in ruins, Commander Jack Nelson supervised the construction of a memorial. He had come full circle, from discovering the destruction of New Eden to witnessing the surrender of those responsible. The memorial contained the names of every human lost in the conflict, beginning with the colonists of New Eden. Nelson ran, his fingers over the first section of names, remembering the burning world he had found 4 years ago. The final inscription read, "They destroyed one human colony. 700,000 warships," was our reply. "Let the galaxy remember both our wrath and our wisdom." As human ships began the long journey home, leaving occupation forces behind, other species throughout nearby space watched with newfound respect and caution. The peaceful humans had revealed themselves to be the most formidable warriors the galaxy had ever seen. They had built the largest fleet in history in just 4 years. They had defeated a species that had been undefeated for millennia. And then, most surprisingly, they had shown mercy. The message was clear to all watching. Humanity wished for peace. But if forced to war, they would bring a response so overwhelming that no enemy could stand against it. In the decades that followed, as ships returned to exploration rather than battle, as factories returned to civilian production, as the Vexar slowly integrated into the galactic community under human supervision, one lesson remained clear. The stars belonged to many species, but when the darkness of space threatened peace, humanity stood ready to light the way, or to light the fire,